The Endless Golf Podcast, brought to you by Toyota.
And welcome into another edition of the Endless Golf Podcast presented by Toyota. Joining me today is an Ocean City icon and a dear friend, Billy Carter. And Billy, it's great to have you on the podcast. And certain with your journey to Ocean City, there's certainly a lot to talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it. Yeah, glad to be here. Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get started, we have to talk about a dear friend that we lost back in January. We were at his celebration of life at his restaurant, the Hobbit Restaurant, and we're talking about, of course, Tommy Heidemann. Tommy was a mentor for me, and I know you and Tommy shared kind of the same journey to Ocean City, the same timeline.
It's amazing. We had like almost parallel voyages through Ocean City. We started about the same time, and we became just friends just instantaneously. I mean, we just had so much in common, and we both wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to own a restaurant. I wanted to own a restaurant, and I remember I told him, you know, I don't know about cooking. And I said, that's never been my forte. And I remember him, I'll never forget, Tommy goes, if you can read, you can cook. And I started thinking, you know, I mean, he might be right there. Like that.
That sounds exactly like Tommy. Well,
but he's a great guy.
He really was. And for me, I met Tommy in the early 90s, and we became dear friends. And our relationship really, Billy, was about golf. We played a lot of golf together. He kind of taught me how to compete on the golf course. If any of you out there who know Tommy Heidemann know that he was a fierce competitor. He did not like to lose. And I always tell people this, you know, I loved him so much, and there was nobody I'd rather have as a partner, but when he wasn't my partner, there's nobody I'd rather beat more.
That's right. But he was an interesting guy, and I thought the world of him. And we really, for not seeing one another that much, I considered him a great friend of mine, and I knew Tommy's always said that he felt the same way about me, and even Mary Jo has said how much Tommy talked about me and how we just had so much in common, you know. And he was a really interesting character, and he was a great guy and very successful and loved by everyone. And I really enjoyed his company over the years. I miss him.
And we all will miss him for sure. And you mentioned Mary Jo. You know, you can't. It was always Tommy and Mary Jo, just like it was Billy and Madeline, like it was Mackie and Pam. And
right.
you know, it's kind of a crazy time when you look at that generation, that era of Ocean City. And then of course Tommy had three wonderful boys, Matt, Garvey, and Michael, and just you couldn't ask for three better young men. And they spoke at the celebration, and you could tell what they meant to him. It's obvious, and the impact that he had on their lives. So that's a great family. He will be missed, and you know, we look forward to seeing their kids, the boys grow, and always spending time with Mary Jo as well. So we'll keep Tommy's spirit alive for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Billy, you know, we mentioned your journey, and you know, you grew up in Frostburg, and
yes,
and kind of cold up there in Frostburg, right? So
hence the name Frostburg. But actually, it was a guy named Frost, but it was appropriate. You know?
And you said, "Get me out of here! Send me to Ocean City." How did you get to Ocean City, Maryland?
Well, I came down here as a kid. We came every year the third week of July, and stayed in the same cottage. And I think my parents felt that they owned that cottage. They didn't think anybody else ever stayed there. My father would fix the windows, and if they needed silverware or something, he would go out and get it. But when I got to be in high school, I didn't come with them because I was playing ball or doing other stuff, you know. So I hadn't been in Ocean City for about 10 years, and I had a construction job in college at the end of my freshman year, and it fell through. I'd been there the year before. I didn't have a job. It was like in June, and the only thing I could think of was maybe if I went to Ocean City, I could get something, you know. So I came to Ocean City by myself. I didn't know one person in Ocean City. And I was riding down Coastal Highway, and I saw the sign, The Embers. And I remembered my parents taking me in there when I was like 10 or 11 years old. I pulled in and went in the back door, and there's a little bit more story to that, but we don't want to bore you. But Irving Wolf, if anybody remembers Irving Wolf, he was a legend in Ocean City. He ran the Embers and he picked me out of a lineup. I stopped and changed my clothes. You know, supposed to go for a job interview.
We're looking good.
Look good.
Look good.
Well, yeah, I got to look good. So he said, "Come in here," you know. And I went in the back door with him and of the kitchen, and he hired me as a busboy. And I'd never been a busboy. I'd never worked in a restaurant. As a matter of fact, I don't think I was ever in any other restaurant as nice as the Embers. I couldn't believe I was working here.
That's the way it was back in those days, right?
The Embers, I didn't realize was a spot.
Right.
After work you would go out to parties and stuff, and you'd run into other people that were working other places, and they always said the same thing. The thing was, where are you from and where are you working? I go, I'm working in the Embers, and they would all say the same thing. How'd you get in there? But it was. I learned a lot. There were a lot of great people working in there that went on and had their own restaurants. Alex Fischetti, Terry Gallo, Ronnie Buckley, on and on, Jimmy Lennon, John McDonald. I mean, on and on. It was like an all-star cast in there that I was unaware of. So I got to learn from guys that knew what they were doing.
And that's pretty amazing.
It was invaluable.
Another Ocean City icon was part of the Embers, obviously owned the Embers, was Sam Towson.
Oh, my God.
And what a character, what a man he was,
Yeah.
and what an impact he made for Ocean City.
He was one of the most cherished moments of my life. I was asked years later when he died, I gave his eulogy. And that was like, what? You're asking me, but I remember Jay Towson calling me and asking me to do the eulogy, and I said, you know what? I know I'm not the first one you ask. There's no way I'm the first one, but I'll do it. I'll do it. But Sam was, Sam was bigger than life. He was really. He just everyone admired Sam, and he inspired a lot of people to go on and stay in the restaurant business. He just was. He had it all together, and he was just a wonderful guy and an unbelievable businessman. Everybody admired as Mr. Sam, as we called him. And of course, he had a great brother, Irving, Mr. Irv. And it was just a wonderful experience. I was there 3 years. It was fantastic.
So from there you go where?
From there, I went to the Hurricane nightclub, which was like
Frank Coniglio, right?
Frank Coniglio. Frank Coniglio.
What a man he is. What a great guy. I got to know Frank over the years, and ended up having Bradley's down in Palm Beach, and Bradley's is still there. His son's running it now,
Yeah.
and Frank has passed, but he was a great man as well.
Yeah, he hired me, but it was interesting how this happened. I'd gone back to Washington in the wintertime, and I was the banquet manager of a Holiday Inn in Gaithersburg. I had a great job. It was a great job, and that's another story too. But Frank called me because I hung in the Hurricane after work at the Embers.
Right.
I lived across the street, so he called me. He said, "I need one more bartender. Come on, Billy. You don't want to stay up there in Washington this summer." So I said, "Yeah, you know what? I don't." So I asked my boss for a leave of absence in the summer, and he said I could have a leave of absence, but I ended up never going back. But I got there at the Hurricane. Frank had sold the place between the time he hired me and the time I was supposed to start. And I walked in the Hurricane, and of course I knew all the other bartenders. They said, we got a new owner. And I said, well, shoot, Frank hired me, this guy, I don't know. Just get behind the bar.
Start working.
So I did. I got behind the bar, and the guy that owned it was Mr. Bloom from Wilmington, Delaware, a great guy. He just thought I'd been there all the time.
That's a typical Billy Carter story right there.
So I was there 3 years at the Hurricane, and then from there I found out that people actually drank during the day, and that Fager's Island was open during the day, and I could work day shifts. I couldn't believe that. I actually could be off at night, work day shifts. So the guys that were working there, Tony Barringer, Chuck Rock, Lee Anderson, they all talked me into leaving the Hurricane and going to Fager's. So I was 3 years at Fager's too, but I could tell a million stories about
Well,
that.
that's a great start to your
Yeah.
journey in Ocean City.
Yeah.
But probably the most important thing that happened to you, besides BJ's, and we'll talk about that in a minute, is when you met Madeline.
Absolutely, yeah. See, I knew her for a few years before we got together, and I knew some of her old boyfriends who were friends of mine, and you know what? I would see her. I remember her coming into Fager's, and I always said hello, blah blah. Knew where she worked, and she worked at the carousel, and anyway, just one thing led to another, and we just started seeing each other, and we've been married 35 years, and I was with her probably 5 before that, so That's a long time.
It's a long time, but it's a great story.
Yeah.
And I tell you what a great relationship it's been over the years. You guys ended up having 2 restaurants, BJ's North and BJ's South.
Yeah.
And I know Madeline was a big part of the South. She's always been a big part of all both restaurants. But South was kind of her baby. And Billy, it's probably a good time. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and then we'll talk about your journey with BJ's on the Water with Madeline and starting the business and how kind of that all came about. It's a great story, and we'll talk about more in just a minute, so stay with us.
Sounds great.
And now a word from our sponsor.
I love a good adventure, and my friends and family do too. So we all drive Toyotas. Tacomas for my rugged buds and Corollas for my city crew. And I drive a RAV4 that I take camping, shopping, and basically everywhere else. We all picked our Toyotas because they're reliable and efficient and have amazing resale value, saving us money now and down the road, so we can make every day an adventure. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals and inventory. Toyota, let's go places.
And welcome back into the Endless Golf Podcast presented by Toyota. Staying with me is Billy Carter from BJ's on the Water, the iconic place that so many memories were made over the years, Billy. And I got to tell you, we talked about your journey up to BJ's, and it was from Fager's, then BJ's.
Yes.
How did that happen?
At the time, I had leased the Riptide Bar on 28th Street. We had the first pool bar in Ocean City, the first bar that had daytime entertainment. We had a band every day.
That was after you found out you could drink during the day.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, the drinking during the day was just a thing. I didn't know you could actually tend bar during the day. You know, the people did go out during the day, and so it was like instead of having like working 6 nights, I'm like 3 days, 2 nights. It was fantastic, you know. But yeah, and I got my real estate license. I understood that every bartender in town had to have a real estate license, so they fired you. You know? So I was working for Gene Parker, and we got along great. And I was selling property for him during the day up at Cane Woods. We sold those lots in Cane Woods at the time. They were called Parker Estates. It's right in front of Tiburon. It's on the,
How much were those lots back then?
They were $6,500.
$6,500 for a lot in Cane Woods.
And I had an $800 commission. We thought I was Donald Trump. And we, instead of selling them, we should have been buying them.
Right.
You know, we actually were like high five. We cut a deal with a guy, Mr. and Mrs. Jones from Dundalk or something, would buy a lot. And we'd be doing high fives, you know. I can't believe they bought this. Meanwhile, their lot is worth like $350,000 now. You know,
It's so amazing how it's changed over the years.
if you know you know where Tiburon is.
Sure.
Well, Tiburon was supposed to be more Tiburons all the way out to Fenwick Ditch. Did you know that?
No.
Well, what happened was the market went south when I was working there, and Gene had to rezone that whole area into single family residential because he knew if he sold or built townhouses there or condos, they wouldn't sell. So to keep that property, he turned them into lots, and we sold the lots.
That was actually a blessing in disguise for that community,
absolutely,
for sure.
yeah. But we became good friends, and then he would come into Fager's. I worked at Fager's at night, and he would come in at Fager's, and one thing Gene always said was the reason he was really impressed with me was all the years that he came into Fager's, I never bought him a drink.
That's funny.
He's the guy I want for a partner.
I can trust that guy.
Yeah. I'm his boss. He can't give me a drink.
So you ended up having an opportunity to get to get BJ's, and you had some great partners as well.
Oh my God, yeah. But there was a piece of parcel of land right there where BJ's ended up. Gene's office was in front of it, and we used to walk around back there, Gene and I, and envision like, you know, we getting into something. Gene was interested. Of course, I was interested in it. But that's he owned the property with like 4 or 5 other doctors, a couple guys from dentists from Georgetown University, and so Gene and I incorporated and bought those guys out, and we built BJ's, and we built it on the cheap, and we never thought. I really never thought I'd be there more than 2 years, and I'd be like gone, thrown out, or whatever. I mean, I didn't look at the long run, you know.
Right.
I was like 27, I think, and we you know, really, we ended up building BJ's for the next 41 years because it was never built right.
Just adding on and changing.
Adding on, changing, redoing it. Because I mean, I can't remember what we had like 75,000 or something in the whole restaurant. You know, I mean, we had to hurry up and open it up before it fell down.
So it kind of morphed into itself.
Yeah,
into
yeah. And we were always
became.
adding on, as you know. I mean, it's when we sold. It was
And what year did you start BJ's?
August of '79.
79, yeah.
Yeah,
I got here in 82, so.
Yeah, we were supposed to open in May, and it got delayed. We got so late that we almost said bag it and don't open up in August, wait till next spring. So when we finally did get open in August, well, of course we had no money, and we didn't get our liquor license yet. So we opened up. No, we had liquor, we didn't have food. And so by the time we got our act together, the season was over. And
you were broke.
The bills were right.
And Gene's probably going,
Yeah, it was like, what did I get into? Yeah. But it ended up being great. And then Gene, he, I think he was my partner for 3 or 4 years. And he just, I'll tell you, smoking, he just didn't like the way the bar action was going. Like if you remember dram shop laws were always in the forefront, and that's if you have a drink at BJ's and you go out and you run over somebody.
Right.
They blame the owner of the restaurant. You know, it goes back to him. It's never passed, but Gene was really thought it would, and he didn't really like that kind of exposure. You know, so it was a great relationship, great partnership. We were friends till he passed, and I think the world of him. You know, I put him right up there with Sam Toston, and it was great. And I had Jay Prettyman from the Rudder, Rusty Rudder, became my good friend during that time, and I talked him into buying out Gene. So now we're back to BJ's. It was Jay and I, you know. So Jay was my partner for 4 or 5 years, and then he got out, and Bruce and Chip.
Bruce Chip
Moore
came in, yeah.
So I had some interesting partners, and you know, I may be one of the only guy, and I had a couple partners. Gene and I had to bring in a couple people at the very beginning. I don't think you would know who they were, but all told, I probably had like 6 or 7 partners, and I always thought I might be the only guy that actually speaks to all my old partners.
And let me tell you something, Billy. This is a, you know, taking my hat off and throwing some flowers to you. I've never heard any of your partners say a bad word about you. And you know, we all know partnerships in business are not easy. And you know, they absolutely trusted you, they adored you, and you did a great job, and you were that guy. So, you know, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, I think about it a lot because I admire all those guys. I always thought most of the times, the last time you see your partner is usually in court. And we never went to court for anything. Well, we did go to court, but it wasn't between us.
Right, for other things.
Yeah,
right.
But yeah, it was. I'm blessed. You know, I'm blessed. I mean, a lot of good things happened to me, and I was blessed to have fantastic partners. I mean,
yeah, good partners, good businessmen that could kind of lead you at a young age, and you did all, you know, the legwork and the grunt work, putting the people together. And I know one of the things that's always been important to you is your staff. You always had a great staff, and one of the things, if you ever had a chance to go to BJ's, which most everybody did, you could always see the pictures on the wall on the way to your bathroom and around the restaurant of all the staff that you had. You take a group picture every year. I know that was important to you.
Yeah, I don't know how that was one of my better ideas because I don't know where I saw that. I'm sure it wasn't originals. It came from somewhere. I stole it from somebody. But yeah,
well, Tommy
being,
Heiderman had all the pictures of just people enjoying things and having a good time at the Hobbit, which was a great idea.
That was a great idea too. But it's unbelievable how, I mean, those pictures were priceless. People that came in every day would still go to that picture and see themselves. Or if they had friends from out of town, you know, the first thing they did when they came in BJ's was show them, there's when I worked there in '84, you know, or there's my old girlfriend, and you know, there's my first wife, you know, it's, you know, but it never stopped. And we were worried about the last. Do you have time for this?
Sure.
The last day, we were always worried somebody was going to steal them. You know, take
right.
them off the last day, especially that whole week. So I had everybody kind of keeping an eye on the pictures, and. So I was happy that nobody took it. And then the last minute, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, our last day. I looked, one of the pictures is gone. So it was 1989, and it was the year Madeline and I got married, and so she was really upset,
Right.
you know. So I thought, well, 1 out of 41.
That's not that bad.
That's not that bad. So I kind of got over it. But one day I was out in my yard, and this was like a month later, maybe 2 months later. This guy comes down the driveway in his truck. He's yelling, "Billy, Billy," you know. And I didn't know who it was at first, and I saw him, and his wife worked for me years before. I got something you might be interested in. Well, they were in BJ's with friends of theirs. And Linda, we called her Lulu, she would look at her pictures. There's nobody looked at her picture more than she did, right? So she obviously was looking, taking these people and showing, there's me, you know. So this guy, they went to a party like months later. Lulu and her husband went to a party with these people they'd been with in BJ's. And he presented them with that picture, you know.
And they were mortified. Like, what did you do?
Lulu's husband goes, "That's not your picture. That's Billy's picture." He said, "Oh, you stole it from him." So he took it back from him and brought it back to me. So I have all of them.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
But it was a couple months later.
That's crazy. But
Yeah.
you know, and so in '89, you and Madeline get married, and then what year did you open BJ South?
We opened in '87. So we were together, but we weren't married yet. But we opened '87. We bought the property from Frank Hanna. He had bought it from Jack Bunning and only had it for like a month. It was called, no one knows it, Beach Bum Browns. I don't know if
Yeah, I don't even remember that. Yeah.
It, from like April to like June of '87, Frank owned it from Captain, because no one really even knew he was a middle guy. He just ended up changed his mind or went and do something or whatever, and he talked us into buying it. And but it was he was relieved, and he really wanted out of there. And I was kind of a little hesitant about it too, but it ended up being a great. It was a great deal. We did very well.
It was a great run. How many years?
We had it.
Well, how many years from BJ's you opened in
79. So we were
so
41 years
41
at BJ's,
years,
and then 87 to 04 we were like, I can't do the math. That's 10, so like 17 years we had BJ's South, and it was. Hey, I miss them, and but it was a great run. I got great memories, and it was wonderful.
And we've got a lot more to talk about. Billy and I have kind of decided we're gonna kind of get together and talk about Old Ocean City in some future podcasts. But before I let you go today, I do want to ask you, like, if you had some advice for a young restaurateur, people starting out in the business, what advice would you give a young restaurateur just trying to start their own business in Ocean City or really anywhere?
Well, for one thing, the restaurant business, which people did ask me all the time, and one of their classic questions was, how much time do I have to put in to the restaurant if I own it? And I said, if you got to worry about that, don't do it. I mean, there is no time clock. You might work 1 hour one day, you might work 18 the next. I mean, you don't leave until you can leave, and you don't go back until you know you have to go back. But the time thing, I'm very, very fortunate because I'm one of the people, well, a lot of people, but myself included, I actually found what I was really supposed to be doing. You know, a lot of people are in a job their whole life that they hate or they can't wait to get home or whatever. I never, ever had that feeling. I wanted to get in that business. I love the business. As far as I'm concerned, I don't even know if I've ever had a job. You know, I mean,
The customers were your friends.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I miss most is the friends, and that's where my band kicks in there.
That's a whole different conversation. We
story.
definitely have to talk about the
But,
band. I mean, you've been a big part of. Music has been a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Always. So.
Yeah. Music was what really kind of kept me in the business. I mean, I had to have bands, and I loved booking the bands. And but to go back to your original question, you got to find something you really love. I mean, I'm saying it goes back to where I never thought I even had a job, is because I did love what I was doing.
Yep.
I never thought, I got to go to work tomorrow, or I never thought that. So I mean, it's hard to be good at something you don't love.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
so
it's hard to put your heart and soul into it.
That would be my
There's no question.
main piece of advice to anybody that was contemplating doing anything.
Anything.
Yeah, anything. It doesn't have to be a restaurant.
Well, I'll tell you, Billy, that's great advice, and it's always been a pleasure. You've been a big part of my journey here at Ocean City. I can't thank you and Madeline enough for your support over the years. For all my golf shows and all the things that we did together. Sometimes you didn't even know what the hell we were doing. You'd say,
you got
Bobby,
that
what are
right.
we doing?
Always.
Then I would use the old stallion line on you. Just stick to the program.
Hey, I say, Bobby, what is it exactly that I do with you?
Oh, gosh.
Are you doing all right? I go, yeah. She said, well, then stick to the program.
Oh, man, it's been so much fun. And we've been lucky to live in this great
Oh,
town.
my God. How about it?
And we've got so much more to talk about, which we will do in future podcasts. So, Billy Carter, it's been great spending some time with you.
Bobby. It's a pleasure.
Always
Pleasure.
fun here. You've been able to talk about some great Ocean City history, some great people. We'll see you next time right here on the Endless Golf Podcast. So long, everybody.
The Endless Golf Podcast has been brought to you by Toyota.